Executive compensation has a very broad spectrum from functional assessment all the way to pension funds. And I wanted to focus on what is relevant for board members. However, I exclude all the legal aspects. I'm focusing only on what is relevant to steer the company. And we start with the first exercise, which is we hire a CEO. And Gregor has volunteered to be your new CEO. I think you have gone through an extensive search, and the head of the corporate governance school at the HSG is now your preferred candidate. And what you have to do is you have to make him an offer how much to pay. So for a company your size that you're managing, the median pay is 450,000, which is denoted here in the box plot as the horizontal blue line. There's a lower quartile, an upper quartile of 380,000 and an upper quartile of 600,000. The highest paid CEOs, the top decile, is paid 850,000, and there are a couple that receive only 290,000 for a comparable position. This is a very realistic exercise. This happens in board. They're getting these benchmarks, and they have to make an offer to the CEO. I think these are all very valid reasons. I think it's very representative of what actually happens in boards when they hire a CEO. Would you agree, Georg?
Absolutely.
Now, the interesting thing is what happens to your pay in the market. The median actually increases by 11% from 450 to 500. Very interesting. The top comes down from 850 to 610. This is the top decile that we have offered. And very interesting, the lowest salary that was offered was 430, so you have a pay increase of 48%. The important point I want to make here is that this process of hiring and paying a CEO in itself can be the reason why CEO pay spirals, as we observe in the market. The problem is that all the boards have the same challenge as you. They have to be generous to the new executives, and that's why salaries go up. CEO pay only spirals because it can be benchmarked. We've done empirical exercise about 10 years ago with a HSG student, and we looked at what people would typically pay to CEOs, and the average pay increase that we measured over 300 people that participated was that the median increases by 23%. So it's a lot, and boards have to be very careful. Do not benchmark too much, or then do not go above the median too much to not accelerate the spiraling pay. And I have a blog on LinkedIn where I wrote the exercise down and also the results. When we did that research with 300 people, we asked them about the math grade to identify if people that are numerically skilled, more skilled, are better at this effect, or like are a little bit more protected against the wage anchor effect. And it turns out that no matter how good you are in math, your average wage anchor effect, your average wage increase is about the same. If you go from 4 to 5, the wage anchor effects actually increase. And if we're very bad at math, assuming they answered honestly, it was actually lower. So the math skill alone can't help you as a proxy for intelligence. But what can help you, that's good news for the women here, women are less affected of the wage anchor effect. When we looked at what women offered, their offer was still significant, but lower, by a third lower than what men offered. Very interesting side effect, which then helped me write a LinkedIn article, which was a little bit attention-grabbing. There's also another effect that I looked at, which I found really fascinating. We also asked what happens if you hire lower-skilled people. So if you have benchmark information for your babysitter or for your household staff, and it turns out the wage anchor effect is not as large, but it's still there. So at that point, then I thought it would actually be good to have better benchmarks for lower skilled people, because that would help them increase their wages. And I'm now working on an idea which I call the public paycheck. is to put wage information on a blockchain so that even low-skilled people can benchmark their pay and may actually get paid a higher salary, which I think is a market-efficient way of increasing salaries and therefore much more effective than minimum pay. An interesting side effect is that the lower paid profit the most and the higher paid actually get a reduction in pay. So when you look at the deciles, the worst paid increased their wage. You have seen that here too. There was nobody at 290. It was a significant increase at the lower end. So the lower skilled people had the highest wage increase. So when you ask them about setting a pay level for a lower skilled person, nobody wants to really pay below the median. They want to be closer to the median and not really very much below. But even executives get a wage increase that is way higher than the median. And the better people are paid, the less the wage effect actually increases. So with pay benchmarking information, you will see less outliers. So in Switzerland, after the compensation law came into effect, the Minder law came into effect, very extreme high pay levels have not been seen anymore. Question for you, why does Elon Musk get 2 billion in pay or Tim Cook gets 500 million? Any ideas why this is the case? I have also an opinion, I don't know if it's true, but I think the high pay level makes them a celebrity. So they are already good. We all know Tim Cook was a really good CEO or manager. And we also know that Elon Musk was a really talented entrepreneur. By giving them 500 million or 2 billion, it puts them into the stratosphere. And I think maybe one reason why they pay so much is because they have the necessity to communicate that this CEO is a god. I think that could be part of the creation of a unique personality where people then all believe in that person and follow them.